Hello, everyone. I am Judah Bernard with the Rise Creating Your Voice. I am elated to be here on this Tuesday day. I am the wisdom dialoguer and the motivational warrior of the Rise Creating Your Voice podcast. We are here talking about let's talk, having dialogue, speak out. Why is communication so hard in today's society? I want to thank you to all the supporters and listeners. We have reached over 200 listeners listening to this right here, the Podbean live stream. So we have over 200 plus listeners, and we want more and more hours of streaming and doing the necessary things that we need to do. We definitely want to thank some of our co-hosts for coming in, Noah and Kiesia. Say hello. Well, I want to make sure that they get a chance to introduce themselves because we're going to go straight into the topic. Why is communication so hard in today's society? Hello.
Hello, I'm Kiesia and I am Judah niece.
Mr. Noah.
Hey, I'm Noah and I'm Kiesh's best friend.
Isn't this nice? So, we want to make sure that you guys are liking, subscribing, and also sharing that every Tuesday night we will be here on the Pod Being Live. Every Tuesday night, even if I'm on vacation, I'm still here. So, the thing is, we want to definitely talk about why communication is difficult. And I was reading this article by Jimmy Martin Epperson that was published August 23rd, 2020. And the bottom line is that effective communication is difficult. Okay, let's think about that. The bottom line is that effective communication is difficult. Anybody want to chime in on that and why it's probably difficult for you, either Kiesia or Noah? Either or. Why is effective communication difficult? Go ahead, Noah. I see your mic come on.
I think that communication is so hard nowadays is mostly because we're so used to our technology and our phones and just getting used to just being able to see each other's like social media and just being like, oh, how nice, like seeing somebody like be on vacation or something and just congratulate them like that. So we're just so used to just not seeing each other in person really much anymore and just
Okay.
catching up on like just everything.
Yes, I totally agree with you. What about you, Kiesia?
I feel like communication is so hard nowadays is because we was not taught how to communicate and how to speak out our feelings. So usually nowadays people keep their emotions bottled up inside and not speak out and communicate. We always we always go to the violence instead of working and talking things out. We always go to the negative feeling rather than trying to feel like try to figure out why you're feeling this way and to why you're so angry or why like what's happening or what's a positive way to solve it rather than a negative way with the yelling and the fighting instead of just talking instead of calm down and talking things out.
I want to definitely put it into simple, plain words. Why is communications so difficult? Number one, the subjects modern humans talk about are extraordinarily complicated and unnatural. We respond to things that appear complicated with a fight or flight physiological response. That word is, I got braces on my mouth, so y'all forgive me. And next, words mean different things to different people who have diverse expertise. That off the back is why communication is so difficult. But I want to talk about communication started when we were born. Can you guys agree with that? What is your concept on that?
I agree on that because like our parents, we don't see them communicating. We see them arguing and fighting and yelling over each other and not working and talking things out. Not most parents and not most parents does that. They argue things out. They don't like try to take a breather and calm down and just talk things out. So while we're like a baby. We see those things, and when we see what's happening, um, see what when we see what our parents are doing, we do what they do. We whatever we was taught, we always get taught from things from the beginning, and it always start from our parents, not from school.
Right, right. Go ahead, Noah, chime in. Communicated started when we were born. Talk about it.
I actually have like mixed feelings about it. My parents are great at communicating in a way. They are not much to be able to actually like communicate through emotions. They're more into like, okay, this is the practical side of things. Whereas I have more emotions than anything else, so that's how I
Mm.
communicate. So it was a difficult time when I was living with my parents. To actually try to communicate my true feelings and stuff. But I think, uh, actually, once I moved out, I actually have had better communication with my mom and dad. And I think it's mostly because it's just kind of like having your own space, kind of understanding each other's like situations. And like now that I'm like on my own, I actually have to like understand more of like of the adult life. So
Mhm.
I just like see where my mom and dad were coming from, and I understand like everything what they're dealing with. And so I just think it just depends on like the household, because I know every household is different. So I think it just varies on like how your household is as a child. uh but yeah.
And I totally agree with that. But then again, I said communicating started when we were born. Just like when we came out of the womb, did we not start breathing? Yes. Guess what? That's a form of communication. We begin to communicate with others as we are out of the womb with our first breath and our first touch. We begin communicating before we are even aware of ourselves as human beings. Our minds are hardwired to communicate. Our natural ability to express ideas allows us to persuade another person. It's our evolutionary trait. We cannot not communicate, even if we choose to say nothing or do nothing. It's what separates us from other animals. Our communication can enhance and evolve our awareness in our society for generations to come. So, why is it so hard for us to communicate? Communication is critical to our social standing. Do y'all think that's true? So, the society that you're in or whatever group you're hanging around, do you think your communication is critical to your social standing? Let's talk about it, Kiesha.
Yes, because uh, like you, like we started off with how the babies are born. Sometimes, like what we was taught, depending on the household, like it merges over to our social life. So instead of some people talking things out or, you know, trying to communicate things through, it's always fighting, arguing, and it's like our generation nowadays, they do more fighting than more communicating.
Mm.
And because we see that a lot on the internet too, always fighting. So even when we get it from our household, we also get it from the internet as well, because that's where we always on the internet. So wherever we see on the internet, we feel like we can do it too. We feel like it's the right way to do things, rather than it's the wrong way, I shouldn't act like that, or rather than. So trying to put this like, so it's like we always see the negative side rather than a positive side of things.
Okay, definitely. Noah, what is your aspect on it? Communication is critical to our social standing.
Um, so I think it depends on like the type of people you're around. See,
Mhm.
I'm more introverted than anything, but around Asia, I can be very extroverted. So it to me, I think it just depends on like what's the vibe with the people you're hanging out with, because there's sometimes where I hang out with some of my friends that I've got invited to like a get together or a party or something, and
Mhm.
I really don't know much about them. And
Right.
so I tend to be more introverted then until I get to like know on a deeper level. Um, and then that was what helps me learn more into to like, okay, these are a good group of people that I can hang out with and be comfortable with, or these are the people I really shouldn't like. I don't really vibe with them very well. So I think it just depends on like the type of people you're around. Like different mixtures all come together and make one certain thing. So if you mix two different people who are basically introverted and extroverted, if you mix those two together, you're probably not going to get much of a great like communication skill right there if they're just like literally extroverted and one is like literally introverted, because introverted people tend to like keep to themselves and are fine being by themselves, and extroverted people have to be like a social butterfly. So I really think it just depends on like your atmosphere, your environment, the people you're around. Uh, so then by that will like help you become more of like of a different vibe or not.
And so that one thing is, I think communication is critical to our social standing, because we all look for or are dependent on being accepted in society and enhancing our status in the eyes of others. So we always look at how others view us. So our existence and safety have relied on communication right as of now. We are still dependent on it, just like our ancestors who could face exile or be reprimanded for their actions. We feel the same anxiety today at work. Promotions and career advancements count on others' perceptions of our behavior, loyalty, and actions. So, why is it so difficult to say just what we mean? Words can only symbolize actions and things in the real world. When we speak about things in modern times, like technology or finances, it gets complicated. The subjects we communicate about are naturally not easily to explain or to understand. The lizard brain adds an extra dimension that becomes extremely difficult to manage. We explore both of these points below. Once we look at it, the theory of how words are formed. To understand the previous point, let's look at the most fundamental theory of how words and meanings began. The most common theory is that our human ancestors started making sounds that soon gained meanings. As our social ancestors band together to stay safe in the wild, sounds began to communicate dangers in the uninhabited world. Some of those sounds were our ancestors began combining those words to form a message. They wouldn't say, "Look, I see a tiger." They would say, "Run, tiger." See the difference? Now we probably say, "Oh, look at that stripy thing going over there," and then, "Oh, it's a tiger. Run." We keep forming those words, but in those words were associated with flight, fight or flight responses. These sounds could start the biological reaction that happens when we perceive an attack or a threat. So let's talk about it. We have Iani and James now on here. Please introduce yourself. James, Iana.
Hello,
Hey, how you
can you hear me?
doing? Yes, I
Fine, how
can.
you all?
I'm quite well.
Good. I was trying to figure out how to get on, and then I seen the invite. Man, everybody got a podcast now. Uh, by the way, I'm James Sims, pastor of Greater Tabernacle Ministry, the father of yours truly, the
Amen.
host of the show, grandfather
A-
of Iana and Kaisha.
and friend of
Uh,
Noah's.
hey, no.
All right. Iana, come on, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Iana, the niece of the host.
All right. So what we're doing is we having let's talk, having dialogue. I know that we've already talked about, but we want to know from James and Iana, why is communication so hard in today's society?
Well, for me, I think we got so many ways to communicate.
Hmm.
Uh, we find ways not to face people while we communicate instead of just the old basic talking and actually being truthful with each other. We've gotten away from that. So it
Okay.
makes it
I like that. Go
somewhat
ahead.
difficult because you don't know which direction or what angle they're coming from or where they're going. So a lot of
Okay.
times you would rather just not than trying to figure it out.
Okay. I like that. Just tell the truth. Let's start talking and telling the truth. I think that's what he was trying to say. Let's just start telling the truth. Iana, what
Exactly.
about you?
I say, like he said, it's just we have so many different forms of communication now. Like it used to be where we had to talk or we had to go find that person to tell them something. It's so easy to relay messages that we don't actually have to speak anymore.
Wow, isn't that interesting? One thing I had to bring up is this interesting conversation I had with a colleague of mine, and the thing is, we talked about Adam and Eve and how they disobeyed, getting into the fruit and eating from the fruit, the tree, and things like that. But then again, who delivered the message to them to eat of that fruit? And listen to what I'm saying. The
Satan
serpent
delivered the
actually,
message.
yeah, the serpent actually delivered the message. Look at what we have going on around here now with people doing different things and negative things to themselves. It's a lot of serpents delivering messages to people. And then we eat of that fruit, whatever unkind thing that we may be doing, and we take that message and we digest that message. Sometimes it becomes bitter to our stomach. Sometimes it becomes dis-ease or a disease. So be careful to the serpents in which you receive your message from. But I thought that was just good because it sparked the attention to my mind that we eat a lot of things and we listen to a lot of things and we take on messages for what they're worth. What if you just didn't do that and listen to yourself? Just hold that point right quick. So, 7 reasons on why communication is so difficult. In this book, The Way We're Working Isn't Working, Tony Schwartz states that we have taken the need for survival into our work and social settings. We still associate the same physiological response to words and perceived threats. Even though our lives are not threatened like they were when we were in the desert, we still feel like they are in danger. We will have the same biological reactions when we feel threatened. This perceived threat can come from something as simple as the inability to understand what someone else is saying. When we cannot understand, there is uncertainty. Neuroscience research even shows that our brains view uncertainty as an error. So, the number one thing is the modern problem with words. Come on, somebody speak about that. The modern problem with words. Go ahead. Anyone.
Um, we can say the modern, but then before we can go there, we need to understand the ancient.
Yes.
Um, I see that's what we are trying to. We developed so many different ways of communication, trying
Hmm.
to alleviate the original way. So, and that's Satanistic as well because we're always trying to divert from the base.
Right.
The base can always be there and it won't leave, but we try to, for a better word, better it instead of actually using it.
Hmm.
Now that the modern term is the fact of you got podcasts, you got uh, Facebook, you got Twitter, you got Instagram, you got so many different ways, text, you got so many different ways to communicate, but we still just don't sit down and flat talk. I mean,
I
and
totally
we're
agree
doing that
with you.
now. We're doing it somewhat, and we do it in a small basis. But usually, it's when we talk was when we had to sit around the dinner table and had conversation. When we
Eh,
actually ate, together. Now everybody go in separate places and sit down and eat. So we don't eat together anymore. We just eat when we want to eat instead of delivering um, moral consciousness and also being examples before them while we're doing those things. So those things are very prevalent now. And the modern way is now we think that we are intelligent, we have improved, but we're losing what we have.
Exactly. I totally agree. Kiesha, conversation for you now.
Conversation for me now. Okay.
Yes.
Mm,
The modern problem with words.
the modern problems with words. I mean, we don't really know. I can't really say we really don't. I mean, we know words, but we really don't know how to speak out the right words. We always did the wrong thing. We always come out saying the wrong things rather than come out saying the right things. We
Mm,
always, it's always us bickering and going off where we could just communicate into like why I hate you or why you did this or to uh like like why they left the toilet seat up. I don't know. I guess that's most things couple will say, but usually in the modern people our age, they don't know how to really communicate with words because mostly we got baby mama and baby daddy drama because they don't know how to communicate well, and it's like the communication is like so off and people are getting divorced so early because they don't know how to communicate well, and
that's
it's
go
it's,
ahead.
it's stressful seeing that people don't know how to communicate well. I mean, I understand you can get angry by ways of what a person doing, but it's always best to communicate rather than speak out your anger.
Right. So number two says stuff is complicated. You know about the reason why it's so complicated now? Because the main difference between then and now is that what we are communicating about now is much more complicated. And in that much more complication, as for the modern human, we usually are not imperial. However, we still have these primordial reactions. Before, our human ancestors only dealt with the natural world. Let me say that again. Before, our human ancestors only dealt with the natural world. Guess what? Now we are communicating about human made mechanisms. We're talking about the economy. We talk about finances. We talk about work. We talk about technology. We talk about corporate rules. We talk about raises. We talk about vacation. We talk about promotions. We talk about management. We talk about retirement. We talk about debt. We talk about marriage, and so on. It's so many things that people are communicating about, but are they really communicating? When only our human ancestors only dealt with the natural world, it was those things that were not human made mechanisms. So a lot of these things were human made mechanisms. The computers, jobs. They had work, but it wasn't like it is now. So these things are tricky. The complexity can easily cause confusion in communication, and when there is confusion, it can it can be perceived as an error. Words mean different things to different people. Come on, Noah, tell us more about that.
So another thing to add on to what we were talking about last time was my mom actually has a saying called, like, she'll say it all the time. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. So like you could tell somebody, hey, you left the door open, but or you could put it in the tone like you're yelling at them, like, and then they could take it the wrong way. Um, that's one reason why proper communication is like key because certain, like, especially in the English language, like a one word can mean like five different things, and you have to, like, make sure you know which one they're talking about. It's like in the I believe it was I don't want to get it wrong, but I think it's in the Chinese language. They have their own words, but they also say like chair and like chair and like maybe like tub could say like could be the two different the same word, but it's just how they say it.
Okay.
Um, and so it's best to actually know the person, and it's best to like know like that's not how they mean it, especially if you know like if there's a stranger that doesn't know them, they can probably take it the wrong way. So I like agree that communication is definitely key, and it's not what you say, it's how you say it a lot, because you can mean one thing but definitely mean a different. And to go along with that, um, by texting, I actually will admit that it is harder for me to actually like understand how they're saying it. I think that's why emojis were invented because you could do different reactions to things. Um, so like,
But how
for
can you feel the emoji?
right, right. The only thing the emoji will do is like give me a better understanding of they're not actually yelling at me, but they're laughing. And so, with technology these days, it is kind of hard to actually know what people like truly mean, what they like send you. So I do think that like it's it's the best ways to communicate in person because you'll see how they're talking, you'll see like their body movements, you'll see how they say it. Um, Definitely like emotions in their face, you can definitely tell. Uh, so it just varies on what you say and how you say it.
Right. True, true, true. Iana, words mean different things to different people.
It definitely does. It's just like how everybody say it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Because you can say one thing to somebody and then turn around and say it to someone else the same way, like literally the same way that you said it to the other person, and it could cause a different outcome than what you expected it to, even though you may have didn't mean it the way they took it. So that just goes back to communication because it all says like even if you didn't understand how I said, you could have asked, well, did you mean it in that way or what exactly do you mean? And back to
Totally.
emoji, I feel like emojis kind of help with when
Okay.
you're texting because like you can say something and send a laughing emoji that lets them know you're laughing while saying it or something in that. But I feel like emojis help. Like sometimes when people don't text with emojis, it upsets me because now I don't know the tone. Emojis kind of help set the tone in how you're saying or what you're saying when it comes through text message.
Okay. So here's my take on it. The only words form is when humans start using them, and we assign general meaning to that word. General meaning to that word. The act of thinking and forming words and meaning is subjective, which means that meaning is constructed based on personal opinions and interpretations. However, when we speak to other people, we think that what we are saying are objective, which means it's measurable and a fact. So think about that. You say a word that has a meaning in your head, and when you speak it, you automatically assume that it has the same meaning everywhere else, correct? Well, in this essence, if we are talking about a tree, well, it is difficult to see the point here. But when we start talking about things like that use jargon like platform, applications, or wireframes, it becomes apparent that we can have different meanings to words. Just like if people are not diverse in technology and IT and things like that. Sometimes we work on platforms. But then again, another female who's younger than me might be 13 or 12 and she's wearing platform shoes and she'll probably hold up her shoe. See the difference in that? That's just like applications. You got Microsoft applications, you got different applications. Somebody that's in the makeup industry, they're probably thinking about the applicator versus applications. Then you have the physical applications that you fill out. So it's so many things that become apparent once we get a better understanding. But if you're just talking about it and throwing jargons around, pretty much words mean different things to different people, especially whatever profession you're into as well. The fluency of messages. Who want to take that one? Come on, James. The fluency of messages.
Fluency, the word itself tells me that it's many.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact when you don't have a basic understanding and you got many cause confusion because everybody won't perceive or accept the same.
Right.
So, and that also puts me in the mind of where we are today because that's why we have so much confusion because we got so many the fluency of communication,
Mm-hmm.
so many different ways. And like Noah said, a lot of times I might be feeling one way when I say it and I'm expressing one way, and you feeling in one way and you perceive it another way. So unless you ask me, how did I mean it, you won't know and you'll just perceive what you perceive. So fluency is good when there has some foundation or some understanding. That's what the Bible said. In all the ways get wisdom, but in all the ways get an understanding. So get
Mm-hmm.
wisdom, but in all the ways get an understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have the basics, so you can have some direction, so you can have some uh, balance in your conversation or in your perception. I know I went wide on fluency, but it's just so much that we can't perceive or be able to conceive. That's my take.
Okay, thank you. But the one thing is the fluency of messages is we have so many ways of communicating. And I think the panel has said it so many times that we have text, we have email, we have social messaging, we got skywriting, we got so many ways of communicating. You read a bottle, a label on the bottle, that's a way of communicating. Us right here on the podcast, we're communicating. But at the end of the day, the fluency is that it's so much communication out here and so many ways of saying messages. It is an influx of different ways, and everybody's not going to understand, and it does cause a lot of confusion. And the stuff we communicate is complicated, and things mean different things to different people. And I want us to really understand that it does. Just because I said something doesn't mean that next person understands it. And so, but here is another reason why communication is so difficult. People automatically view a new idea with skepticism when we communicate in a way that is hard for someone to understand. The person receiving the message might even think that you're talking about is dangerous or unsound. It's a shortcut that we developed over time. The shortcut states that if it is hard for me to understand you, I will think your idea could harm me. This shortcut is all done automatically. We develop these social shortcuts so we can make decisions more quickly. Hmm. So sometimes I just turn off because I be like, I don't understand them. So, and I'm hard of hearing, so just cut it off. But I know we talked about our emotions too, as well. Noah, you want to come back in and talk about that again?
I'm sorry. Could you re-elaborate what you mean by like emotions?
How your emotions are involved in the conversation. Because sometimes the listener can see or sense our own emotions while we are communicating. If our feelings are not consistent with what we are saying, then this too can cause distrust or insecurity. So, say for instance, somebody is talking to you right in front of your face, and some way you're feeling sad about it, but they're laughing about it.
Oh, right. That's like I said before, communication is definitely key. So like if they're definitely laughing about it and you're over there like butthurt about it and like sad about it, definitely would should be like, I don't know how to take this. You're making me feel sad. And like the last time we talked, if it just like hurts you too much and like gets you very upset, then you can go and be like, I need a break, and go pat about it for yourself, and then come back and be like, okay. uh, and so, yeah, definitely emotions are a high key to how you say stuff, especially that because if you're feeling mad, obviously you're going to talk mad. If you're feeling sad, you're definitely going to talk like you're sad. And so emotions are like like the high top about how to talk. I don't think you can really have emotions with you can't have you can't talk without emotions.
Even through text with the emojis, right?
Right.
Let's talk about Iana. Emotions. Iana.
Don't do that. Because emojis definitely tell you the emotions that they're feeling.
But are they true emotions? And let's keep it real. Do your okay? Say for instance, your friend texts you, but then again, you're looking for a different emoji, and they send you one that kind of befit them, but you get confused and be like, why they send that emoji?
And I'm gonna say something. I am going to ask. I am going to ask. So, do you
But
mean
the
to look
thing
at it?
is, you
Like,
sat there and saw that emoji come up, and then what happened?
it changed my emotion because now,
Exactly.
so is that what you
and
mean?
and that's what I'm saying. That emoji, it wasn't even communication. It was just the emoji because you was emoting for something else, and then they sent something total emoji that threw you off, and you like, what the what?
Right.
Exactly. So you see how emotions are engaged in this, but then again, when that person really don't see what we're seeing because we actually thought they were going to put another emoji in there by this communication, that now we don't really trust them and we have some insecurity about like, did you just hear what I said?
Right. That's like when you feel like you have big news and then you go
Right.
to somebody and be like, okay. And you be like, what?
And they
Like
put a
you
small
not hear
little
what I
clap
just
on there.
said? Right.
Did you just know I said something big and just popular and you put a small clap up there? I totally
Okay.
get
What
it.
is that?
Can I get like a couple of claps or something? So I understand what you're talking about. So we're definitely moving to the next one, the performative. Action speaks louder than words, like our panel has been saying. This is similar to how emotions can block us from seeing the meaning of communication. We can say one thing and then behave differently. Every parent in the history of time has been do as I say, not as I do situation with their children. When these crop up, it confuses our children. It is difficult for them to comprehend the message. The same is true anytime we are hypocritical, not performing, or doing what we suggest others to do. So it's about communicating and continue to communicate and be active communicating. Kiesha, let's talk about empathy and listening. How good is your empathy and listening? Kiesha.
My empathy is good, but my listening is all right.
So on a scale from 1 to 10, how high is your listening?
I
10
said
being the highest.
I said a 5
Okay.
or a 6. I mean, I
We'll work on
listen
it.
well. I listen well, but it's like some kids who are like me, they have ADHD, ADD, or they have some kind of diagnose. And it's hard to listen. It's hard to pay attention when your mind is focused on something else. So you try hard to pay attention to things, but you can't. And when it comes, I mean, some people have empathy for things, but some people can. My mom called me nonchalant, but I mean, I can empathize with some people's situation, depending on the situation is, because you can't really trust people nowadays because some people will lie just to get that empathy, just to get that attention, because they may not have had that attention or that effect before from their household, or they just want something to feel. So usually they want your empathy, or they want your listening ears, and sometimes you can't listen to what a person say because you never know if they're telling the truth or not, because some people, they will manipulate their ways into your head, or they will um try to like lie their way in to something, or to just make up a story just so you can listen and get that empathy that they really want.
All right. Thank you. I understand. Empathy and listening from a scale of 1 to 10. How and 10 being the highest. How good are you on empathy and listening? Noah.
I, to be honest, think it varies on the situation.
Oh, there we
Um,
go with that. 1 to 10.
so like for an example, me and Keisha have been through thick and thin together. We are still going through thick and thin. And so since we know each other very well, I know when I'm getting a I know when Keisha's like upset, I know when she's mad, even at me. Because I can just feel that vibe, even through a text message, to be honest, I can feel like when she's mad or upset. Because she can be very vulnerable with her text messages. She can definitely tell, like, when she's mad. Um,
Sir.
I'm just saying. But anywho, like, so when that happens, and I know the situation, and like I know why she's mad. Usually, what I try to do is just give her some space, and then she'll either text me later on, or I'll text her later on and be like, "You good?" and all this, and then we'll talk about it again. And at the later on, we'll be calmed down and stuff, so we're
Noah,
able to talk more.
Noah, on a
Yeah.
scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, what is your empathy and listening?
All right, so empathy, I think I am at a scale of 8, and listening wise, I've got to be at a 5.
Okay, all right. At least you're being honest to yourself, right?
You're right.
Okay, great. All right, James, on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, how are you on empathy and listening? James?
I, I'm trying to get off mute.
Okay.
Okay, I think I'm off mute now.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. Uh, on listening, from 1 to 10, I'll give myself a 9
Okay. Whoa, that's what's up.
because of the fact I pride myself on really listening. I've learned, and well, this has happened in my later years
Hmm.
because I used to not listen. I hear them, but I didn't listen. And then I started mentoring other kids and stuff, and started telling my grandkids as well as my kids, which was the most important thing is to listen. In order for
Hmm.
me to tell them that, I had to then learn how to listen myself. That's how I got to a 9. So I hadn't always been a 9. I used to be like a 3 or 4, had to make my way to a 9. So over a period of time, I think I'm a 9 now. But with that being said, I still listen. In my listening, I perceive, but also that confusion part because there's so many areas of communication
Hmm.
that you can't really derive at any definite cause confusion as well. So
Right.
in listening doesn't help that part. It
Right.
only helps the part to where you obtain what they say, but you don't gain what they say. If that
Okay,
make any
great,
sense.
great. Yes, definitely, definitely. And what is your scale for empathy?
Scale of empathy is about a 6.
Okay. All
Because
right.
again, in order to have empathy, you got to have compassion. In order to have
Oh, yes.
compassion, you got to have an
Oh,
understanding.
Lord.
What?
Yes. You're right about
Well, I
that.
mean, so I mean, everybody can give numbers out, but I try to be factual in my giving,
Right.
and then give the reason why. Because
Right.
I take communication highly or
Hmm.
serious because I want to know a person truly. I want to know. I want to know truly. So when you take it seriously yourself, then you can't have an expectation for others to be the same way, but be at the same point to where you accept them what they give, and that takes a lot of living to do that. It don't come overnight. So a lot of these things I know, and I'm talking to a lot of young people, and I don't know how old Noah is. Matter of fact, where are you from, Noah?
I live in Augusta, Georgia, and I am 22.
Wow. So I'm talking to a whole bunch of young folks. So so I can understand, but when I'm saying what I'm saying, and I'm hoping that you, being as young as you all are, where you can take what I'm saying and place it within yourself to where you can be a better you. and a lot of people won't understand you, but you would understand them. If that make any sense.
Makes great sense. All right. Thank you, James. Iana, from a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 being the highest, what is your empathy and listening number?
Listening depends on the conversation. Not gonna tell a fib. Depends on depends on the situation. I'll give it a strong 8.5. Ooh, I'll give it a good 8.5.
Who you high? Go ahead on empathy. What about empathy?
Once again, depends on the situation. I'll give it a good 7. No,
Okay.
I think I would flip those because I know my
Okay.
empathy is very much stronger than my listening
Right.
because you know I'm very sensitive. Yeah, hush.
Yes, you
So
are.
I would give my empathy an 8.5, and I would give my listening like a 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
So definitely empathy and listening for me, myself, and a scale to 10. I think I'm more like James that I was not a great listener back in the day, but I have grown to learn to listen, especially through my profession and also through other listening skills and things that I've come into turn with is turning me off and actually making sure that I tune to everyone else as far as listening. My empathy has grown as I grew. I was very empathetic early on, but I think I grew more empathy. Empathy for me does not necessarily mean that I just give to all, but empathy for me is that I try to understand other people and look at it from their point of view. So if you do not listen to whoever you are speaking to and you do not understand their question or comments, then there will be a misunderstanding. Listening and feeling where someone is coming from is the most powerful communication tool we have. Once we understand where they are coming from, we can help them see the value in what we are saying. We even have an entire message that works on this premise, and that message is called Message to Step. In conclusion, why is communication so difficult? Because it is difficult. We don't look at someone running a marathon and wonder, why is it that's so difficult? We don't also look at a woman giving birth and ask, why is that so difficult? They are just difficult things to do. The same is true for communicating your true meaning. It is a strenuous exercise and takes training and a hard work. How many of us train for this type of stuff? It seems like I have to train for the Olympics to actually communicate because the more we could continue to communicate in a natural form, they come up with some other type of form and things like that for us to communicate with too as well. Are there any questions or any comments at this particular time before we go into our mindfulness exercise?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How can we not perfect, but how can we elevate our communication skills?
And I'm glad you talked about that. The one thing I've been reading is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. One thing he states is be impeccable with your word, speak with integrity, say only what you mean, avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. And number two, don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. Number three, don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. With just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. The last but not least one is always do your best. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to be sick. Under any circumstance, simply do your best and you avoid self judgment, self abuse, and everything else. I hope that answered your question. Any other questions on the platform of our special guest?
It
Come
didn't
on,
answer
Wanda.
my question, but I guess I had you said don't take anything personal. But then if you don't take anything personal, how can you show
How can you show what?
uh who,
Emotions?
no
Oh.
what's you asked what's my level
Empathy.
for empathy? Yeah,
Okay. Well, the empathy is something that you give to me.
I know, but in order to give, you got to take it personal to give. You just can't give empathy and don't have any feelings in it. And taking things personal, you got feelings in it.
But I want people to understand in that empathy, that still is nothing about you. Nothing others do is
Okay,
because of you. Nothing
right.
others do is because of you. So the one thing is, if we make it personal, then it's going to be about us. So sometimes we have to remove ourselves when listening to other people. And
True.
sometimes we emote a lot when we listen to people. Then we take on that thing. But what we're saying that don't nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality and their own dream. When they're communicating that, that's exactly what it is. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. So we don't want you to suffer in this communication. We want you to be just don't take anything personally, because I think we become emotionally attached
Right.
to some people in communicating. And then again, if you're emotionally attached, you're going to always listen to what that person say, even if they're still subjecting their opinions on you. What do you think, Iana? Iana? Kiasia? Noah? Come on through. Oh, everybody got quiet. Y'all got any y'all feelings?
No, I mean I don't think I have any comments to make, but I mean I understand. I feel like in the modern days, I feel like we need to communicate more, but I feel like it's hard to get people to communicate more because I feel like if you tell someone to try to communicate or to do this or that, they will take it some kind of way.
And the one thing that I want people to understand, that when people are communicating to you, guess what they're doing? They're telling their story. That's all. Like Iana, she stated that she was trying to text her, friend, or whoever the texter on the other end was. I got this big promotion, but I guess you got to understand everybody else goes through things too. So definitely, she was waiting for an emoji that could rock her world, or just, oh my gosh, you got your promotion, things like that, and she didn't receive it, and how it was emotional befitting for her, because basically she was expecting that emoji, but it didn't resonate with her, and she got in her feelings and said, oh my gosh, I just told you about something that's exciting to me. Just because that was exciting to you, does not mean it's exciting to the other person. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality and their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. So that's it. All right. Why is the communication is so hard in today's society? As we continue on, we're going to do a mindfulness exercise, And then we're going to go. Any words of wisdom before we go to our mindfulness exercise? Because this is important. Kiesha, any words of wisdom for our guests out on the Podbean Live app? Words of
Um,
wisdom.
Words of wisdom. Wisdom. Um, hmm. Think before you speak. It's always best to communicate things, even when you feel like you don't want to. Don't talk your anger out. Calm down and just flow with the communication. Yeah.
All right. Slow down with the communication. Think before you speak. Come on, James. Any words of wisdom before we go to this exercise?
The most important thing in life is to listen.
Yes. Please listen. Noah, any words of wisdom?
Communication is definitely key. Um, Remember that it's not what you say, it's how you say it, and like never assume. Always get the final like information before you assume, and that is all.
And last but not least, Iana, then we're going to go straight into this exercise.
I'd
Okay.
rather be someone's shot of whiskey than everybody's cup of tea.
Oh. I
Say that
love
again.
that. Danny says it again.
Say that
I'd
again,
rather be
Deanna.
someone's shot of whiskey than everybody's cup of tea.
Period.
You'd rather be somebody's shot of whiskey.
Than everybody's cup of tea.
that's
That's
that's the
strong.
commu- that that's the communication barrier. But I love that saying. I'd rather be someone's shot of whiskey than someone's cup of tea.
No, than everybody's cup of
Oh,
tea.
then everybody's cup of tea. Oh, I
Yeah.
like that. I like that. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. So you guys ready? Let's go into this practice. Mindful speaking is a conscious way of speaking, wherein you are fully aware of what you're saying and the tone of your saying. It also suggests not to get trapped by your own compulsive behavior, feelings, and conditioned thinking when you speak to someone. Here, the most important aspect is to develop awareness when you speak. Because when you are aware or conscious, you are no longer driven by your own compulsions and beliefs, so that you can be authentic and engage in healthy communication. First of all, you have to observe and know your thoughts before speaking them out, and inquire your deepest intention behind that thought by asking yourself, and you can say it with me, is that intention negative or positive? Everyone say it with me. Is that intention negative or positive? Say it again. Is that intention negative or positive? Or is this intention good for others? Everyone say it with me. Or is this intention good for others? One more time. Or is this intention good for the others? If your thoughts and intention are good, then you can speak those thoughts or words. Now I would suggest a 3-step introspection practice for mindful speaking, which is observe, analyze, and then speak. You first have to observe your thoughts at a distance. Then analyze them by simply asking these 3 questions mentally to yourself before you speak them out. Let's say number 1 3 times. Is this necessary? Number 1. Is this necessary? Number 1. Is this necessary? Number 2. Is this true? Let's say it 3 times. Number 2. Is this true? Number 2. Is this true? Let's say number 3 together. Is this right for others? Number 3. Is this right for others? Number 3. Is this right for others? If the answers are positive, means you have good intention and your saying is beneficial for others, so you can spark and engage in conversation. Always remember, you are not your thoughts and emotions. You are a consciousness, pure awareness, void space on which thoughts and feelings rise and fall. Whenever you become aware, just take a pause and watch your thoughts. Observe your emotions without judging or identifying with them. This practice will help to grow mindfulness, awareness within you, and ultimately improve your communication. We often want things to happen in our way and try to make people behave on our rules. But when this doesn't happen, we react to them unconsciously and create miseries for ourselves. Isn't it? So from now, try to disidentify yourself from your body, mind, emotion. Mentally watch them from a distance. And don't react to situations, people immediately. Instead, respond to them wisely. These benefits will help and assist people on a physical, mental, and emotional level. As you relate in your communication skills and social interaction. As we go forth, communicate, don't react, and also continue to observe your thoughts as we end this mindfulness. All right, how do everybody feel? I know that was a lot. Tell me your thoughts.
Relaxed.
Kiana, tell me your thoughts. Kiesha, everybody come off mute. You can come off
Oh.
mute. Everybody come off mute. You can talk.
Just at
Well,
ease.
yeah, just relax. I mean, I almost fell asleep.
Oh, that's good.
I don't think that's what was supposed to happen, but you do you. As long as you learn something.
A good night
No,
rest.
what was your reaction?
Um, I think I feel the same. Maybe a little bit more open minded because hearing for everyone's different opinions.
Okay, great, great. And Iana?
I said I just felt at ease.
Okay, great, great. So let's keep that positive vibe that was just exhilarated, because basically sometimes we sit there and we overreact and we overdo a lot of things, but also be mindful about observing your own thoughts. Sometimes those can get us in trouble, and then we assume that we're right, and then we evoke them on anybody else that probably is just the opposite of what our thoughts are. So let's be mindful about that. Um, yes. Anything you guys want to discuss or any questions before we leave here? We are 1 hour ahead, and want to make sure that you guys get all the information that you need out. And what topics are we talking about next week? Let's talk about that. Oh, everybody quiet now. Like, what topics we gonna talk about? We'll surprise you guys, so make sure you meet us back here on Tuesday, every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and also 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. It could be you sitting right here on this stage as our co host or speaker. So make sure you tell a friend, tell a foe, tell your spouse, heck, tell everyone. We'll see you on the next podcast. And also, Sunday Jewels on the Rise is every Sunday on Instagram Live. You can go to at Jules Mentoring LLC or at The Rise Creating Your Voice for our topics. And we will usually put them out on Saturday, and you can just click on Instagram Live at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time and 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have May 12th coming up, and what we're going to be talking about. What was that topic, Dad, again? And we'll be on the Start Meeting app. I know it's not hurt people. Um, but it's about church hurt. Let's say that. So make sure you join in on May 12th. Was it 7 o'clock?
I think.
Okay. We'll make that announcement later. But it is coming, and we'll send that information out too, because we want the masses there on the Start Meeting app under Greater Tabernacle Ministries. And don't forget to tune in to Greater Tabernacle Ministries. And I don't have that number on me, but you can go to 3 Sims 3 as the meeting ID once you open up the Start Meeting app and tune in to Greater Tabernacle Ministries. It's 6:45 Central Standard Time for Bible study, 6:15 p.m. for Bible study, 7:15 Eastern Standard Time for Bible study, and also church Sunday school is 8:45 a.m. on every Sunday, 9:45 Eastern Standard Time, and church is immediately after of it. After that, so make sure you join in the Greater Tabernacle Ministries. Any announcements or anything? What can they find you on Kiasia on Instagram? Noah, tell us your Instagram account. Iana, tell us your Instagram account.
My Instagram account is foreign Oreo
Foreign Oreo.
underscore.
She didn't say 40 Oreo.
Uh,
She says foreign. FOREIGN Oreo OREO underscore
E.
you. Okay, Noah, telling your Instagram.
My Instagram is the underscore Robert underscore son.
Okay. The underscore Robert underscore son. James, tell us your Instagram so people can find you.
My Instagram is sim4862.
All right. And Iana, last but not least, tell us your Instagram.
My Instagram is EANN
And I'm
dot
putting in
A.
the chat the Greater Tabernacle's phone number.
Okay, definitely, definitely. Thank you so much. Are we going to have a discussion next week, Iana, Kiasia, and Noah? Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Kiasia, Noah, we coming on next week?
Yes, sir. We're
Yes.
All
coming
right.
on for part 65.
Yes, part 65. I like it. You're just on part 4 right now, but if you want to go up to 65, I'm down for the get down. As we always say as we leave
So
here, and
Noah will
make
be
sure you
on next
guys
week.
like, huh?
Noah will be on next
Say it
week.
again.
Yes, I will be
So Noah will
on
be
here.
on next week.
Yes, I will be on here next week.
All right, Noah. I
Okay.
want to get on the ship with you.
So we want to definitely tell a friend, tell a foe, tell your spouse, heck, tell everyone. Make sure we're gonna drop this tonight. So I'm gonna send you guys the actual link to this once it actually upload, so you can share with your friends to let them know what you're talking about. Okay.
Cool.
All right, everyone. Have a good night. It's a
Thank
happy
you.
Tuesday night, and you know it's way past my bedtime. But that's not nobody's business but mine. You know, when I go past my bedtime, it's not a good thing. But I will live. This is for the whole world right here. I can't even find my. Let's just do a ballad of the night. I can't even find it. Let's do some fresh air. Have a good night.
Good night.
Everybody get fresh air. Have a good night.